this is part 28 of Breath of the Wild. In this part, we're still stuck in the thunderstorm that plagued us through most of the last part,
Yep.
and we're going to basically spend this part riding out the thunderstorm, and then we're just going to do a little bit more exploring here in the same area that we're already in. So I'm not going to lie, we don't get a whole lot done in this part.
I feel like we used the whole last part to like ride out the thunderstorm. It's
Yep.
still going on. I know either the last part or the part before that. I said these storms, they seem like they only last like 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
This one feels like it's lasting a lot longer than that. So, it's nice. It's sunny here where we're doing this at. It's summer, and I'm
Oh,
inside
yeah.
like commentating Zelda in a thunderstorm. So it's kind of becoming depressing in a way.
And on the one hand, like I am glad that they finally came up with a Zelda game where like there was a weather effect that really does affect gameplay. I mean, we've seen snow and things like that, and even rain in other Zelda games, but this is the first time I feel like it's really affected the gameplay. And even though, yeah, I think it's more annoying than it is, fun or beneficial, at least they're experimenting with something a little new. It's a new mechanic that I think that they'll listen to feedback, I hope, about how annoying it really was.
Yeah.
And maybe it'll get corrected either in future Zelda games or something like that. But I do have to say, at least Nintendo is, along with so many other parts of this game, they're at least trying something different and something new.
Now, Red, one thing I didn't know about until you actually said it while we were preparing for this part is that there actually is a weather indicator, and how I didn't see this throughout the entire game is beyond me because, okay, now when it's something that involves like text and instructions, okay, I
Yep.
might understand if I breeze past that or don't even read it. Like, okay,
Yep.
I understand, okay, Hick, that's the way you are. You're going to miss things like this. That indicator is like right there below the time, and how I never noticed that and noticed what it did is kind of upsetting, and like I told you I was going to like kind of let you talk about it.
Yeah.
And then as soon as the part started, I was like, oh yeah, there it is right there in the bottom right corner.
And it makes sense. It's like it's something that I didn't notice until much later in the game either. Like it shows you not only the weather that it is right now, like it's got the little lightning bolt icon right now that it's a thunderstorm, but then it shows it's sunny the next two like cycles of weather, I guess.
Yes.
So, and I didn't realize that that's what it was showing is like that's what the upcoming weather is. So it's like we have our own little weather forecast with us everywhere we go. So there's not a whole lot of benefit to it, except other than maybe planning when you can climb some things.
Yeah.
But to me, I definitely looked at that and thought, it took me a long time to realize that that's what that was. And it's a handy little indicator to have, though.
Why the Sheikah sensor didn't have a weather app is beyond me. I mean, that would have been nice to have in the game. Now, I did notice that the temperature gauge right there, I'm not going to lie, at first I thought that was kind of like a stamina bar. Like, kind of it's kind of like a gas gauge. And I thought
Yes.
it was related to your stamina, and like as you lost stamina, like that would kind of go down. I thought maybe you had to sleep a little bit to like increase that. Then
Yeah.
I read somewhere it's like a temperature gauge or whatever. So I was a little bit upset about that, but at least I kind of realized that about halfway through the game.
Well, and that's one thing we've mentioned that we actually praise this game for is how little hand-holding that it really does in terms of like tutorial or taking the time to, just like we think to Skyward Sword, how long it really took to actually get into the game. And I feel like with this game, they just throw you into the world and they don't tell you a lot about, people may not even realize that that the purple bar down there is a noise level. When you're trying to sneak, it's how much noise you're making. They don't really explain that stuff, and I'm going to say it may have taken us a while to figure some of these things out, but I appreciated that they weren't holding our hand. They weren't just insulting our intelligence.
Well, they insulted my intelligence because I didn't figure out through the entire game I played it, but okay, I understand hand holding a little bit and why people dislike it, but I would like to know what the icons mean because like I
Yeah.
said, like the temperature gauge, I thought that was like a stamina gauge, and like it's
Yeah.
I think it's easy to get those confused or think it's something else. So,
Yep.
I kind of would like to at least a little hand holding on the icons, or maybe have a screen like where the options controls are, where it
Yes.
kind of goes through what the icons are. That would have been really nice. Like I know one thing that it's right there in front of you, but I really just didn't notice was the up directional button was the current rune that you had equipped,
Oh,
and
yep.
throughout the entire game, I didn't even not think that's what that. I mean, it's obvious, I think, but I just never seemed to look up in that part of the screen because
Yeah.
I'm always looking at my health. I can't go any
Exactly.
lower than that because I'm usually dying, so I just never made it to that part.
Well, especially now that video games in general don't really come with much in the way of instruction manuals anymore. I have a
No.
couple of boxed Nintendo Switch games, and they include no instruction manual whatsoever. So some kind of like you said, just a screen or maybe the options or something where you can see what these icons do would be kind of helpful. But kind of getting back a little bit to what we're doing now that the rain has quit, I decided to go back and try to get into this shrine again. And just to spoil you, I don't get into the shrine here either. Me and the shrine did not get along.
I don't understand. Like, yeah, I know it rains in real life. Yeah, it kind of gets sunny a little bit after that. But I don't understand how it gets this sunny this quick after a thunderstorm like that in the game. But, like, you know, kind of going along with how beautiful the game is. Like, okay, first of all, see that sun shine off that water. But, like, the game overall is beautiful. But a lot of times, like, right after it gets done raining and that sun first hits those blades of grass, like, this game, like, that's one of the parts I think it looks the most beautiful at.
Agreed. I mean, just the sun coming off, whether it's the grass or the water in general, especially when it's like sunset time, and it looks really beautiful. It's like those are some of my like favorite moments, just to kind of stop and look around a little bit. But also just a little thing I noticed a minute or two ago. There was like a Lizalfo camp out in the water. I love the way it looked because it looked like it was made from the skeleton of like a giant fish. It's like you saw like the tail flipper sticking up, and I guess like the ribs or whatever, you know, the skeleton. And I'm like, it'd be cool to see a fish of that size, except it would, you know, probably eat us at some point. At least think back of what Gaiorg or whatever it was from Majora's Mask. But just that, I thought that Lizalfo camp looked really awesome.
Well, Jabu Jabu ate us, like in Ocarina of Time, and that didn't turn out so well because we actually ended up getting out of him. I guess in a way it could have also been the Windfish. I guess that's another idea right there because one kind of interesting thing is, and I'm actually kind of going out, not outside the box because I'm talking about Breath of the Wild, but recently with not the producer, the director, I believe. I'm not sure if I have that right. The director came out and said that this game takes place like way after any other Zelda game. And now, like, I don't know if you heard that or not, but like there's starting to be some like interesting theories, and they were out there before on the timeline placement.
Of course, yeah.
They're kind of talking about like all three of the split timelines kind of converge into one, and then Breath of the Wild takes place like on that timeline, and it kind of makes a little bit, maybe a lot of sense because we really do see elements of every timeline throughout this game.
You really do, and there's one of the, actually, and this is something I found really interesting, one of the memories that we unlock later on, spoiler alert, we're going to unlock some memories later on, one of the memories actually mentions, like, it's talking about the Master Sword, and it mentions whether it's been, like, the hero of the sky, or of the Twilight, or of time, and, you know, that's referencing, of course, Skyward Sword, Twilight Princess, Ocarina of Time, so it's really cool how they kind of tie some of those other games together, and I don't have the timeline in front of me right now, so I couldn't tell you if all those games are on the same timeline or different timelines or what. But it was a nice little like.
Well, Skyrim and Ocarina are on that first timeline, and then
before it even splits.
I want to say Twilight Princess. I believe it's on that middle timeline, which I believe.
That's right.
I want to say it's a child timeline, even though
I think it is.
It kind of doesn't make sense, but like what kind of made me think about like that whole discussion was the Windfish and just how those skeleton remains are probably not the Windfish, but kind of got me thinking of how this game has elements from every single Zelda game, and for Breath of the Wild to take place like way down the road in the timeline, like I really think that's a great location for it because this is kind of also this guy came up with this ideas. Like, it kind of like, I feel like this playing the game, it's kind of like a new beginning for Zelda in a way.
It is.
Like, they can go a lot of different directions. Yeah, they can still put games before this game, but from this game, they can go in a lot of different directions of what they want to do with the game.
Well, by putting it so far in the future, it kind of like sheds them of like the weight of all the other games. It's like other than a couple little references here and there, and like we've mentioned, like a lot of the locations are kind of named after former Zelda characters or whatever. It's like, but other than that, there's very little reference other than, like I mentioned, that one memory. And obviously the races we encounter are from other Zelda games, but other than that, they are free now this far in the future to go in whatever direction they want, and they're not stuck like sticking to a timeline or whatever. It's like we're 10,000 years in the future if that's where we are. You know, they can do whatever they want to do. It really is like a nice reset for the franchise.
I mean, it's kind of got the whole, like, you get the whole Zora and the Rito. Like, we've never seen both of those races in a Zelda game. Like, I think in Wind Waker, like, people thought, or they said, I can't remember exactly, like, the Rito were, like, ancestors of the, or the Zora were ancestors of the Rito.
It's
or
like
maybe
after
that was
the Great
a theory.
Flood,
I can't remember if that was a
Rito.
theory or if they actually said that. But like I said, we never seen them in either game, and to be combined into this, like, going back once again to taking elements of different timelines and just.
Yep.
It's just really interesting to kind of talk about the game. And now that the director, I believe the directors came out and kind of said that,
Yeah.
it really opens up the discussion of like where Zelda can go from here.
Well, getting back to what we're doing after 2 parts
I
of
don't wanna
trying to
do
get into well, after 2 parts of trying to get into that shrine and just failing miserably, I'm finally decided I'm going to get back on the road to Kakariko Village here, and that's why I warped back to this tower. I'd kind of explored a little further north there than I think I really meant to, but now that we're headed back to Kakariko Village, this will go ahead and wrap up part 28 of our Breath of the Wild video series.